All right, we are here at this is Kirk and Bill's podcast, episode one. Today we're going to go over how it all started. Okay, um, so Dad, did you ever think this would turn out into what it is today?
Well, I had an idea that, I like to fish, and so I know the longer you fish or the more time you keep your line in the water, the chances are you're going to catch more fish. And so I always knew that it was going to be successful. I didn't know it would be as successful as it is, and so have a great family and a great crew, and it's we've been blessed.
Cool. And well, how did you get your first Medicare client?
Well, my own personal plan. I've been in this business now for 40 years, and so I've got. I knew exactly. I couldn't wait to get to be 65, and I knew the plan I was going to get, and that was the F plan, which was available for people new to Medicare before 2020, and it's just a fantastic plan. It gets it was reasonable. Get to go to any doctor that accepts Medicare in the United States. Nobody has to ask. You don't have to ask permission. If you get really sick and you need to go to a teaching hospital like a UCLA, Cedars-Sinai, so it's just a supplement, to original Medicare, and that's the route I picked. And I've been on Medicare now for a few years, and I'm never sorry I went the supplement way.
All right. And what did a typical day look like when you first started?
In the business?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it hasn't changed that much. Basically, get to the office and uh, make sure we got the coffee made. That's an important step. And then uh, start returning phone calls uh, and reaching out to people that had reached out to us. Just a typical, the nice part about this business is that basically we get to help people find the best health insurance program that fits their needs. I'm not trying to tell them that what we do is what I've done is the only way to go. But everybody has a specific set of needs, and so if you we basically just help people uh, try to find the right spot where they should be, and something that they enjoy.
Okay, cool. Great. Um, did you always plan on doing this long term?
I believe so. Once I worked in the corporate world for a number of years. Accounting was my background. I was a controller for a fairly large, controller treasurer for a fairly large corporation. And when I started this business, I just wanted to be independent. And whether I just stayed at like a one-man shop or ended up with 10 folks I was working with, really didn't bother me. But it's just the so I had a goal in mind that I had to reach in order to make it a long-term feasibility, and I was able to do that, and so I've enjoyed it. It's easy to do something that you like doing.
Okay. Okay, cool. So now let's get into maybe if there was any early struggles. So what was the hardest part about starting out?
Well, the hardest part about starting out is, you have to generate a customer base. And so I was very fortunate that I had a couple of mentors in that area that showed me how to develop it, and so basically, uh, we, we called it in our family they called it the lick and stick. because we could get these addresses, and we made up postcards and letters, and so we had 4 children, and so we're watching TV. In order to watch TV, they all had to stuff envelopes, stamp envelopes, fold flyers, and it was a regular production. But that was the hardest part, basically, and you had to stay right on it, and but it just so you could build up the cash flow to where the business really carried itself. And so it was a little bit of a struggle, but I was just blessed.
Was there ever a moment you thought about quitting?
Oh, I, I don't know if there was any moment where I thought about quitting, but there were times when you'd have like an appointment, somebody wanted an appointment at 8 o'clock at night in some far off city from here. And of course, you'd get there, and you got to remember this was before we had Google Maps, so you've got the Thomas Guide, and you finally find it. Of course, you get there, you find out either they're not home, and a few things like that. But that's just typical of any profession. You can have good days, bad days.
How did you push through that season? When something like that happened, how did you move forward?
Oh, I realized that before I ever got into sales and before anything in a business environment, I spent some time in the Marine Corps. And one of the things the Marines are really good at is that, you can get hit pretty hard any one day, but that doesn't mean the next day is not going to go your way. And that's your line of thinking. And so I just knew no matter what happened, we're coming back and we're going to have a good day.
Awesome. All right. Okay, so now let's talk about when the business started to take off. So, when did things start to click for you? When did or when did
Well,
the ball start rolling downhill?
I think, once it takes about 5 years really to really get things to start to cook, get to move. And so once I hit that 5 year marker, I could see that it was just now that it was just a matter of just staying with it. We pretty much put product knowledge down real well. We had all the right carriers, knew all the right people at the carriers. And that's the other thing, in those days, they really went out of their insurance carriers would really go out of their way to help you as an agent or as a broker. And so again, I was blessed there. And then once we had that all in place, it's just mathematics. You just stay at it.
Awesome. And that's a tough one. So we already went over that. How'd you grow the business? And that was basically through mailers and
Mail orders, referrals. We did. If we would go, we would have any time the community had some sort of a meet and greet type event, we'd always try to set up a table. We go, we do it at Claremont, we did it at San Dimas, did it at Glendora, Business Fest, just whatever you could do to make people aware that we were in business. And the other thing is, I always remember, I don't know if somebody told me that Coca-Cola always plans to spend at least 10% of their budget on marketing. And I'm a firm believer in that. And so once we started to do a little bit better, I try to market as much as we can. We want people to know that we're in the community and we're there to help them. And a lot of when you market, a lot of times people think, well, that's kind of a wasted deal, but it really isn't, because the key is to get your name out there. And then that, whoever sees that name or reads that advertisement, they might not need your service that day, or they might not need it that year. But sooner or later they might need it, and then they'll remember it. And then we're going to be in that phone book, or we're going to be online. That's how we kind of approached it.
Okay, great. Well, cool. So now let's talk about, you've been working with people for a very long time, and so, what have you learned about people after doing this for 40 years?
Well, that's probably one of the nicest parts of this business, is that I the I've been blessed with the majority of people that I've worked with over the years. I found, and from all walks of life, are just really nice. I mean, they have the same motivation that I do. Everybody has. You want to have a nice family. You want to take care of your family. You want the best for them. And the neat part is, over a period of years, you develop friendships. And so, I'm happy to say that I have people that are my friends today that I helped work with 40 years ago in this business. And that's that, and there's always that one person in a thousand or something that, that I always think back, well, maybe they were just having a hard day. You kind of find out what's going on in their life, and you can kind of pinpoint what's going on. And but that's, again, to me, it's just been a blessing.
Awesome. All right. And so, what matters more now than it did when you started? That's a tough one.
Well, I don't think everything mattered when I started, and I think it still matters today. And that is, if you're in the business to help people, in which we are, okay, trying to help people, figure out what type of coverage, whether it be health insurance or life insurance or whatever type of coverage would be best for them. You have to work at it, because and because you want to make sure that you're providing the best service that you possibly can, because these folks are counting on you. And so I think that's is just continually, make sure you're aware of what's going on in the industry. Make sure you know what the products are out there, and continually strive to be the best help that you can to families, to companies, or whoever you're dealing, individuals, whoever you're dealing with, because that's what they deserve. Because if they come into our office, somebody comes into our office, our feeling is we want to make sure that they get great service, questions are answered, and they can go on vacation or whatever we're going to do, and know for certain that we've got their back.
Nice. Okay. And then, what do most people get wrong about Medicare? It's kind of a jumping question, but
Well, I think a couple things that they might get wrong. There's a tremendous a lot of advertisement spent on Medicare for certain different types of plans, and sometimes those plans work out really well. But you have to watch. You have to be very careful with if you're going to, because you've got two choices. You can stay with the original Medicare, or you can leave and get a supplement, or you can leave Medicare and go to what they call a Medicare Advantage plan. And they really have those Medicare Advantage plans are really heavily advertised. And they just seem like they're they're the best thing since, sliced bread. And a lot of times they are. They're not, won't say they're not. But you have to be very careful, because the most important thing when you're choosing a Medicare plan is not for any kind of fringe benefit that it might provide. Okay, you want to make sure that you pick a plan that is going to get you to the very best doctors, the very best hospitals that you possibly can get. Okay, because when we're well, that's not a big deal. But any insurance will work for us. But if we get a significant illness, that's when you got to be able to get to the best and the brightest. And that's why I think you have to if you're contemplating Medicare, you got to make sure that you can get that service, because that's when you need it. And as you know, with Medicare, or you might know or might not know, there's only certain times you can make changes from either original Medicare or Medicare Advantage. So you just can't say, hey, I'm going to change over and go a different route in the middle of the year. So you've got to make sure that you put some thought in it and pick the right plan.
Awesome. So that would be so basically, Dad, if someone listening is turning 65, what is the one thing they need to get right? And I think you kind of just said it, right?
Well, like I said, the thing is that you have to, when you're 65, chances are that you're in good health. You might have some medications for blood pressure or whatever, but cholesterol. But basically, you're in good health. So you might say, well, geez, I don't really need that. But that's to spend this money or do that. But that's probably the time when you should do it, because you want to. Again, it just goes back. You want to have the very best insurance that you possibly could get. Okay, just for the times when you're going to need it, and hopefully you never need it. It's like I've sold a lot of life insurance in my life, and I always tell people, mostly to young couples, getting started out, where they don't have a lot of cash, but they have a lot of liability. And so I always told them, but I was serious about it. I hope they never used it, but in case you did need it, I want it to be the right product to do what your family would need. It's just like home insurance, homeowners insurance. Hey, I've been really fortunate. I've had homeowners insurance for 50 some years, maybe more, and I've never really had a claim. But if my house was something disaster happened, I'd need some help replacing it. So that's it's just, you've got to do your due diligence.
Awesome. Well, I think that covers it for today. So
All right. Well,
all right. Well,
I was just going to add, this is a joy for us to do, and it's fun to work here with my son Bill, who is, that's the other neat part. Is in our little company, we are a family, and the folks that work with us are like family, and it makes it so. This is a fun thing to do. Get out in the community. Hopefully, you get to know us a little better.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for listening. If you're turning 65 soon, or if you need help with Medicare, we would love to help you. You could check us out at kirkwarnermedicare.com, or just swing by the office right here downtown Glendora. Thanks a lot for watching.